Alright, so today we're finally going to be doing part 2 of Unpopular Opinions. Unlike with community videos, I will try to keep track of how many of these we've made because I'm pretty sure I stopped keeping track at like community video 4 and don't want to do that with this type of video. I don't plan on making too many of these, so the number will be lower anyways. If you weren't around for the last one, in this sort of video, I ask you guys to state what you believe is an unpopular opinion, respond to it, and then ask my Discord server to vote on whether or not they believe the opinion is actually unpopular. If you wish to take part in the vote, feel free to join the server. A link will be in the description, which just happens to be below the sub button. And if you watch this channel somewhat regularly, I'd really appreciate it if you clicked on said sub button really fast. Last thing before we begin, I didn't really think about how the Shinobi challenge I planned on starting at 60,000 subs would probably land right as the next season began, so I'm probably going to start it a little early. Actually, I will start it a little early and try to have it finished before the new season begins. So I'm going to start on it tomorrow. Now with that being said, let's not waste any more time and get right into it. CEO1 says, unpopular opinion. The Wulin were a cash grab, and ever since, Ubisoft has been trying to milk as much money out of the For Honor cash cow before it dies. The Ubisoft business plan was to release a second game by now. However, due to the low player count and consumer interest, Ubi have clearly adapted their business plan to get as much out of For Honor as they can. They have little care for how fun and balanced the game is. If anything, the less balanced the better, so that they can put prices on the OP aspects of the game, with the perception that it isn't pay to win simply because you can earn the OP aspects with in-game money. I don't think the Wulin were a cash grab. I like the Wulin as a faction, even if they don't feel as complete as the other three factions for a few reasons, mainly not being a part of the faction war. I'm also not really sure where you found out Ubi's plans for the For Honor franchise. We have no idea if they planned on releasing a second game, especially by the time the Wulin released in the game's second year. I don't think Ubi would release a brand new IP, create a roadmap, and then plan to abandon the game to make a new game, a whole new, unique game that needs to be built upon itself in just 2 years before they even learned anything from the last game. I think this game was planned to be an ongoing title, and it's done so. Sure, there aren't as many players as before, but I doubt they scrapped their plans and just threw together Marching Fire in a hurry. I'm positive that there was a ton of time that went into creating 4 characters, an entire new game mode, arcade mode, and everything else that came with the Marching Fire update. I'm also not really with you on the idea of the less balanced the better, and then putting prices on OP aspects of the game, because I don't even know what you can pay for that's overpowered. I mean, you can buy the new heroes with money, sure, but it's available to everyone. Anyone can hop on and grind steel, and the heroes you can unlock aren't even broken. The strongest hero you can buy out of the year 3 heroes is Black Prior, and you can earn enough steel for him in like a week. You're acting as though you can spend $10 on steel or earn steel and then go buy like 55 fire flasks, 30-second wins, and just go around raining fire flasks down all game. You can't buy anything that gives you any sort of advantage like that. It's all cosmetic. Alright, Tyler Harden says, unpopular opinion. I think you should be able to switch heroes mid-match. I absolutely detest when a game forces me into doing anything. Let's say I play Warlord on a whim in Breach, then remember that I hate Warlord, and so I'm stuck with him for about 20 to 25 minutes. Of course, they'd have to rework the way XP and rewards are earned, so it happens in real time during the match, so I don't think they would ever do this. I see what you're trying at here. You're thinking sort of like an Overwatch style character swap mid-game. There would be issues with this. Ubi will have to look into a lot of things, like you said, XP and rewards. They'd also have to look into things like renown gain and feat cooldowns. Would you lose your feats if you switched, or would you keep your renown progression? If so, I could pick a hero that gains renown quickly and then hop on to, I don't know, Shaman, who has a tougher time earning renown. If we were playing Breach, what would stop, say, the attacking team from playing a set of heroes who have an easy time taking the ramparts, and then having someone switch to Shinobi 3 minutes into a phase to go capture the flag, and then switch back to another hero to do whatever else. Things like that. I agree. I don't think we would really see anything like this make its way to For Honor, because there would be a lot of work involved. Next up is a pretty long one. Miser the Moose says, I think that the Wulin hero should have been thrown into the Samurai faction instead of their own faction, as it seems like Yubi half-assed the Wulin into the game. We only more recently than not got a map for them. We still don't have any minions outside of the Guardian and Commander on Cheng Pass, and they are not on the faction war map at all. They never got faction locked feats like Pugno Mortis, Catapult, Smoke Bomb, Aerostorm, etc., which makes them feel less identified in my opinion. Not to mention the Wulin heroes tend not to be touched by Yubi when it comes to tweaks, buffs, and nerfs. Basically, it would have been better if instead of releasing the Wulin under the guise of being a new faction, Yubi instead gave them the Roman boys treatment by shoving them into the Samurai faction with lore explaining that due to the fall of the Wulin Empire, they were forced to either join the Samurai of the Mire or be slain, or something like that, blah blah blah. I feel this would have allowed them to add different heroes into the game. Like instead of adding 5 Wulin, they could have added 1 Wulin to the Samurai, 1 new hero to the Knight and Vikings faction, and then add 6 more characters for the next year. Maybe I'm just not making sense, or I'm the only one who's thought about this, and either way I love your content, dude. Keep up the good shit, my guy. GG. Get good, good game. This time around, there were a few comments about the Wulin, and I thank you for not just saying Wulin bad, any other faction good. I've thought about this before, and honestly, even if the Wulin were given the Roman treatment and were thrown into the Samurai faction for whatever reason, I'm not sure if we'd receive any new faction. I think that they've already had the heroes they wanted to create in mind for a while now, but I could be totally wrong on that. I also don't think they'd be worked on more in terms of hero tweaking if they were a part of the Samurai faction. If they were a part of the Samurai, it would excuse why they're not on the faction war map and why they're not really represented in the game. Also, it would allow them to complete samurai orders, which would be pretty cool. I've never thought about faction specific feats though. I guess it's alright since they receive their own unique character specific feats. But overall, I think it's alright that they were made into their own faction. I just wish that one day they were represented in game a little more by at least being a part of the faction war. Tristan Calamara says, unpopular opinion, every single character is equally 100% viable. What? As long as you're versing me. Oh, you had me in the first half, Tristan. Aaron Lopez says, people in this comment section don't know the concept of the word unpopular, so let me give you an example. Highlander is completely busted and overpowered. Aaron, I've been on Highlander duty for 2 weeks straight, and let me tell you, he is not completely busted and overpowered. Even before I played Highlander, I didn't think that he was too strong. I think that most of the people who say Highlander is too strong believe that his kick grab mix is too powerful, as it can be pretty annoying to feel like you have to guess, is this Highlander going to kick me or is he going to grab me? And if I choose wrong, I'm going to get hit with 40 damage, which is around a third of most heroes' health bars. So if you get hit, 3 or 4 times by that, you're finished. Pair that with his offensive stance dodges and lights, and you can get pretty frustrated with being on the other side of Highlander. I can't say anything about his old option select because that was removed, so that's not really an issue anymore. Highlander does really well in some situations. In other situations, he does not do well at all, depending on what sort of heroes he's up against, and of course, if his opponents are willing to play his game. Now that I've been playing him, I'd love to see him get some work one day because he's an interesting character, but I don't think Highlander is busted. Raging Walrus says, I believe that as frustrating as console can be, it is an overall better experience than on PC because people actually attack. And it's a lot harder to turtle on console than it is on PC. It can actually make Aramusha or Nobushi a viable pick in duels. Personally, I just have more fun with it. Also, keep up the great videos, man. Thanks, Walrus. You're not the first person I've seen say this. There are plenty of people who enjoy playing console or enjoy playing console and PC. I personally am not in the same boat as you are, as I genuinely enjoy playing on PC much more than console, although I do agree there is a lot more attacking going on while playing on console for a few reasons that we already know about, and I'm not going to talk about again. I think if you have played both console and PC for Honor and have felt the differences for yourself, and you can look past and accept the issues that console has, all power to you. Now, when those testing grounds changes come around and players can attack more confidently on PC, I wonder if those who play both and enjoy console more will switch sides. Next up, my favorite son, Sir Ev, says, I think For Honor should implement rolling instead of just a normal dodge, like not back rolling, more side rolling is what I'm talking about. I guess this is more unpopular because I never see any comments saying this. Alright, so you're talking about a role sort of like a Dark Souls role. I don't really agree with this myself, mainly because of how much it would change the way we play this game, and I'm not really sure how we could just plop that into the Art of Battle system. And even if they could somehow pull it off, could you imagine how silly that will look in this game to have a bunch of these warriors rolling around each other? Think about a team fight, say a 3v3 team fight in mid, just a bunch of heroes rolling around each other. This would also basically totally remove all side dodge attack and bashes unless they rolled onto their knees and slash or something like that. Also, deflex would either need to be reworked or removed in some way. I also can't really see how speed, recoveries, and whatnot will work. Would they be as fast as a dodge is now? And if that's the case, it would look really strange. But if they were relatively slow and had long recoveries, I don't think anyone would use them. So we'd only roll if we were going to be bashed, which may sound good on paper, but when we talk about 2v2 or 4v4, that would be a problem. I can't really see it happening with this game. I think the way dodges look are really good for the most part. The heroes look believable and they feel fine. Nicholas Schmelzer says Ubisoft should have focused on creating fewer characters with more in-depth movesets so that they wouldn't be overwhelmed with having to create new content for each hero like executions and armor. This would also make it easier to keep each hero balanced and viable instead of broken or annoying. We've got 26 heroes in the game. The game started with 12. Of course, at the beginning, it would have been much easier to release things like finishers and emotes for every hero, as there was less to do. But honestly, even now they managed to release those things and they look great, so props on Ubi there. Sure, they may not be doing weekly content anymore, but still, it's impressive. I like that we have so many characters in the game now, although it would be pretty cool to see what Ubi could have done with the heroes if they didn't go beyond the Year 1 DLC. I wonder if they would have been able to come up with new mechanics, and if we would have seen some of the properties of newer heroes make their way onto the original cast, and if they could have done so without making these heroes feel overloaded. Like, what if we saw a few of the ideas that made it onto Black Prior, and they were placed onto Conqueror, or if Kinsei ended up with a few things from Janhu's kit or something. And also if we would have seen more armor and customization for the first 18 heroes. Monetization and hype also comes to mind. I think it's easier to hype people up and get people interested into buying a year pass or steal, or just coming back to the game with brand new heroes than it is to add something onto an existing hero. It really is interesting to think about, and you could go either way with what you prefer. I like the idea of new heroes, or we would have never gotten the Wulin and the Year 3 heroes and these 2 upcoming heroes, but who knows? Maybe we could have seen some really interesting things. Specs Eagle says, people only hate on Jorm because it's hip and they don't have their own opinion. He's one of the easiest heroes to fight, literally just back dodge and you can shut him down completely. And for the people that say only turtling Jorms are bad, you can turtle with every hero. Turtling Lawbringers are way worse because they drag out each round thanks to their huge health pool. I don't think people really dislike Jorm because others do. I'm sure that there are people out there who are like that, but not everyone. We all know that Jorm isn't the most powerful hero in the game. It's his stamina abuse that people don't like, me included. Jorm really slows down the game, as you obviously need stamina to attack. His bash is pretty easy to react to from neutral, and he doesn't have a lot he can do, but no one likes having to just wait around when they're low on stamina and just dodge whatever Jorm does instead of actually fighting him. And yeah, you can turtle with just about every other hero in the game. It's been something everyone's talked about for a while now, but that doesn't change how frustrating fighting against Jorm can be, as other heroes aren't draining your stamina as quickly. I want to see Jorm worked on to make both sides happy, the player playing as Jorm and the player playing against Jorm, because there are times that I enjoy busting out Jorm. I'd prefer if Ubi shifted his focus away from stamina abuse into something that charges him up, like how many have suggested. Each bash or punch charges his hammer up in some way, allowing him to knock down an opponent after he's fully charged. That would allow him to still have the same sort of gameplay loop without frustrating his opponent. The Baron of Bacon says, probably super unpopular, but I really didn't like the testing ground changes. Well, to be specific, the speed change. As a Valk main, it really felt like I didn't need any of her mix-ups if all I needed to win was lights. And in fact, whatever I would try to mix up with a bash, I would get interrupted. It sort of felt like it was pushing back into the light spam of earlier seasons, and yes, I understand this to dissuade the defensive meta, but I want an offensive meta that's more than lights. There are plenty of people who don't like the testing ground changes. I know it can seem like everyone liked the changes, but that's not the case. I like the testing ground changes and can't wait to learn more about what's going on and what we're doing moving forward. The way attacks were shown are where I see most contention. You either like them or you don't, and you already know why UB wants to implement them. Light attacks were pretty effective, and chain offense was much better than it is now, and it could be possible that we were landing a lot more lights because people weren't really used to it yet. We only had a few weeks to play. I didn't really have a tough time blocking most of the lights during the testing grounds. I know I couldn't pull things off like deflects and superior blocks as easily, but blocking and dealing with opponents who were throwing out tons of lights wasn't really a problem when I was paying attention. About your last sentence, that you want an offensive meta that's more than light attacks, I wonder what it is you'd like to see implemented. There's only so much you can do with this game in terms of opening up your opponent and then landing damage or continuing pressure. You could improve bashes, improve opening basic attacks, do something with guard breaks, buff feints, or introduce more mechanics like Nusha's Trap or something like that. It seems like what they did with testing grounds was a pretty good way to get people to feel more confident attacking and not get assaulted for wanting to attack. But I do see where you're coming from, as not everyone will like a change that makes the game feel this different. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. This time I really just chose these statements from much lower on the list that either got disliked or didn't have many or any likes. So let me know if you want me to keep it this way or do it the same way I did last time, where I took some of the more popular statements and mixed them in with random ones toward the bottom. And as always, if you like the video, feel free to leave a like and sub if you're new, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.